Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Okay, Pete, we are back. Last episode, we ended with our deep dive into Yellowstone, and we started to look at what I feel are the similarities between Yellowstone and HBO's Succession.
That's right.
And I was calling somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but realistically as well. Yellowstone being Succession Montana branch, and Succession being Yellowstone Manhattan office. Kind of like there's a different CSIs,
Right.
CSI New York. It's
Exactly.
Yellowstone, New York, and Succession Montana. Because there are a lot of similarities.
You can just call
There
it.
are a lot of similarities, right?
You can just call it Jerks, Montana, Jerks,
Bad
New York.
Family, Bad Family, Montana, Bad Family, Yellowstone.
Unbelievable.
Because both are led by a very strong, domineering, somewhat asshole-ish father figure, right? Which is
That's
John
right.
Dutton, Kevin Costner, and Logan Roy, actor I don't know his name of.
Brian Cox.
There you go, Brian Cox. So that's kind of the starting point, which is the domineering, father figure who oversees the entire family, business and carries the purse strings, and all the different children, in both cases 4 children, always vying for the father's attention, affection, approval, and so forth. And the father being able to kind of manipulate that, in a way, into varying degrees, based on his providing or withholding that affection and the approval, right? It's very Freudian in a way, in terms of how the father is, able to control the children.
It's shockingly similar between the two. Like the parallel,
Right,
there's so many parallels, and I think it extends.
One daughter.
Yeah, and exactly. I was about to say it extends beyond the father figure. It also extends into the children.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
roles that they play.
Yes. So Shiv in Succession would be Beth
In Yellowstone.
in Yellowstone, right? Jamie would be Kendall.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Both are supremely educated, have their own, internal demons, and both try to overthrow their fathers.
Yeah.
At multiple times. Right?
Rip is like maybe, and I can't believe I'm saying this, a nicer version of Kieran Culkin's character, Romulus.
Yeah, Romulus. Yeah. And then in Succession, there's Connor, and in Yellowstone, there's Casey, right?
Yeah, who's kind of like this hapless guy who's still
Yeah.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And the only ones with relationships as well, by the way. Not the only ones.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's kind of true, yeah. So should we go through what's happening on Succession? Because we finished now season 3 on HBO, which I thought
That's
was
right.
exceptional.
It was an end I did not see coming.
I didn't see coming either, and I have to say credit to the writers because I think this sets it up very, very well for the next season, right? After a full season where we kind of thought we knew where things were going, and it seemed like it was a very clear roadmap. They've done a nice job of switching things up a little bit, and I think we're very poised, to reshuffle the alliances. And season 4 should be pretty interesting because now we kind of know who's on whose side, right?
Yeah, and I think so. So to give a quick recap to our listeners, Succession is basically a show about this public listed company that's involved in, or that owns a few TV stations and that owns like a few theme parks. It's a conglomerate of sorts, and it's run by one father who's like very nearing retirement age. And all the children, well, not all, 3 of the 4 children work for the company, or worked for the company, and are fighting amongst themselves to be named as the successor, right? Hence the name Succession. And they want to run this large-scale public company. They're all billionaires. And so there's a lot of infighting, there's a lot of sniping, there's a lot of backhanded comments made about each other in an effort to gain their father's approval so that they can theoretically take over the company.
It's a little bit like Rupert Murdoch, right? Would we say? Even though he's British.
Yeah, a very loose association there. Exactly.
And maybe a little bit like kind of like Time Warner, in terms of, like a diversified multimedia company. The only difference being that,
That's
this fictitious company has theme parks and cruises, which makes it seem a little bit like Disney. But apart from that, it's their news and their entertainment and their content, which seems to be like the bulk of their business.
Yeah. So the company has been rocked by allegations of sexual misconduct and harassment. It's also been rocked by the fact that the oldest of not the oldest son, but the second oldest son, Kendall, has publicly gone on against his father and has, said that, oh, my father was fully aware of all of this. We were all aware. And he's basically tried to do a hostile takeover of the company and failed. So that's kind of the overall landscape of this family. Oh, and so it's now Kendall versus the 3 other children and the father on one side. Or so we thought until the end of the season.
So we thought. Yeah. And I think that's that's obviously one of the easier themes, to tease out, which is, the different sibling rivalries. Kendall being the most polished, though a recovering substance addict, obviously, trying to wrestle, control, or at least take down, his father and, the existing shareholder structure. His 2 siblings, Shiv and Roman, obviously, now trying to, win their father's favor and trying to protect the company. And there's a little bit of a battle within the battle, because even within the sibling rivalry for control of the organization, apparently the way that we're supposed to understand this is that that family, the Roy family, through some trusts or holding companies or whatever, is still the controlling shareholder of that, publicly listed company. And regardless of their ability to fight and scheme and outmaneuver each other, the one glue that they seem to have is that they still want to keep the family in control of that entity, so that they can kind of use it as their own little piggy bank. And in that way, it reminds me a little bit of Barbarians at the Gate, which was, what was this? RJ Nabisco, right?
Right.
Yeah, which is this huge conglomerate. No one really knows how it's run, how it's operated. It's a cash cow, and the executives kind of use the private jets and the facilities and everything, kind of for their own, personal benefit as well. And one of the things I see that I think is kind of silly is, we're taken to like the wedding, right, of the kid's first wife, Logan's ex-wife, or the kid's mother, Logan's, ex-wife. And who are all these people invited to the wedding? I mean, like, why is she inviting her ex-husband, Logan, to the wedding? Why is, the guest list seems super weird to me, but I guess that's just kind of necessary for the plot. But it seems like she's inviting a whole lot of people that she doesn't know.
Plus that's probably how billionaires roll.
Want to come to your own wedding. But so that's the recurring theme that's in season 3, which is, Kendall trying to wrestle down the company, Logan versus, Kendall. And we all kind of know how that's going to end, right?
Yeah, so I think...
let me ask it in a different way. Was there any doubt in your mind when it was Logan versus Kendall who was going to win?
No. So what I thought was going to happen was there was a moment in the first few episodes where I thought what was going to be the sequence of events, let's put it this way, for this season was, it had always been the family united, right? And since season 1, it's always been Kendall versus the family united. But he was still a part of the family, right? And then at the end of season 2, he betrays his family in a last-ditch effort to try to take over from his father. And then it becomes Kendall versus Logan and his 2 other children, plus Connor nebulously hanging around trying to run for president. Then at the beginning of season 3, I thought the way it was going to work was, especially when, all the kids got back together in one room without their father, I thought Kendall was going to slowly pick away at that team and get them to transition over to his team, the kids. I thought it was going to be Kendall and the 2 others versus Logan. And again, I'm deliberately ignoring Connor here because at least for the time being, he's a non-entity in the politics of the game. So I thought that what was going to happen was that he was going to convince Shiv first, and then Roman to join him against their father, and that didn't happen. And in fact, it went the exact opposite way. They went all in against him, so far as to say that Shiv attacked him emotionally by putting out a public letter that said that he was a terrible person and that he had substance abuse problems, blah, blah, blah. And Roman physically attacks him at his own birthday party, right? And this is like when you see Kendall start to falter as a human being, in the sense that he's got substance abuse problems. He's obviously battling some kind of depression or some other kind of mental health problems. And at the end of the penultimate episode, you see him lying face down in a pool. And I thought, oh my God, are they going to do it? Is he going to commit suicide? And then I thought, no, he's too good a character and too powerful a character to let him go. And so, of course, you open the ultimate episode with them talking about how he almost killed himself and that it was an attempted suicide. But of course, he's playing it off as it was just an accident. He had too many pills or whatever. He just fell into the pool. But too many limoncellos. That's right. So the show does get me where I thought it was going to go, which is to have all the 3 children pitted against the father. But it went about it in such a way because ultimately the father decides to sell the company and controlling stake of the company, more importantly, to Skarsgård's character, right? And so Lucas, and so the kids don't want to do that. So they make a last-ditch effort to say, well, we're shareholders and we're going to block it. At which point you realize that Logan is quite possibly the shrewdest character of all of them, for having foreseen that, speaks to the mother and gets her to change the trust. Because I guess the shares are in the children's names by way of a trust that's controlled by the mother. And Logan convinces the mother, his ex-wife, to change the terms of his trust so that he can control and do whatever he wants without the children's approval. And that's effectively how we end the season, setting us up for season 4, which is now going to be the 3 children versus Logan.
So I think one surprising thing that I thought was going to happen, which maybe is going to happen now in season 4, is I thought Tom was going to turn. Yeah, Tom is Shiv's husband. I thought Tom was going to have a very critical role because we've really seen him. I hesitate to say evolve, but he's really changed as a character from being this very ass kissy, shallow, entitled loser. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, the last part, but very, very ass kissy, entitled person, to being someone who's very reflective and announces basically that his love portfolio is not balanced. That Shiv is really more than ever treating him horribly. She's always been a little bit indifferent towards him. She's always been never really been faithful.
I always saw it as a marriage of convenience for her.
And it's very strange because it's sometimes she's also has a lot of dissonance as a character, because sometimes she's this very, she came into this show as the independent sibling. Remember, she had some type of political consultancy or something in Washington
Super
D.C.
savvy,
right?
like political aid.
And
Yeah.
she was intended to be kind of outside or above the fray of this business. She had her own, like political connections in Washington D.C. She was a real shaker who's going to be a senator, who's going to be the next president, and so forth. So she was supposed to be kind of a strong, independent character. And I agree that it was a marriage of convenience between her and Tom. She never really liked Tom. She's had some tomfoolery on Tom. But she never was really so nasty to him as we've kind of seen in season 3, where I feel like all of her insecurities about her father, her place in the family have come out for no good reason. And, she's lost a lot of that like strong womanhood that we kind of saw previously, where she stayed above things and was comfortable in her own skin. Now she seems to just be very reactive and worried about her father's approval. And I thought that the way that she was starting to treat Tom was going to convince Tom that he should either come out and speak against the family. And actually, that's what I thought was going to happen in like whether it was the season finale or penultimate season finale. I thought that, Kendall was going to be really struggling to try to get any traction on his, campaign to bring down Logan. And Tom was going to come in and do this dramatic testimony or something and say, hey, you know what? What's going on here is not right. This family is not good. And I thought kind of Tom was going to save the day. And maybe this still takes place, but Tom, based on this last episode, Tom's kind of like acknowledged that the family is not good and Shiv is not good, but I think he seems to have come to accept this and maybe like even tried to manipulate it for his own benefit. Rather than just kind of being this character along for the ride, it seems like he's going to take a more active role to try to be his own disruptive force or manipulator within this universe, right?
Yeah. If there was ever a moment that I thought he was going to turn, it was going to be at that time when they had the Republican convention, the secret meeting to determine who's going to be the next president, and he meets Kendall secretly.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah.
So I think he's grown as a character in the sense that, like you rightfully said, he's kind of manned up, quote unquote, right? Whatever that means, in the sense that because he's faced his own mortality by way of potentially having gone to jail, and he came to terms with that. Like, if I'm going to go to jail, it's because I've offered myself up as the sacrificial lamb, because A, I want to be the sacrificial lamb, and B, I'm doing this for my wife's father, which ingratiated himself very much so in Logan's eyes, right? And it's clear to everyone that Shiv has some problem with Tom, because like even Roman made a comment about it. Everyone knows that everything's not perfect in their marriage, right? And at some point, there's only so much he's going to be able to take, right? There were times where I thought he was going to break, but at some point he is going to break.
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. The way that you explain it, I feel is very compelling, and I could probably buy into that, but I guess it could take one of two different forks. And I'm really not sure which one it takes, which is either he becomes this manipulator himself. And like you said, he's kind of come to terms with the fact that he was going to come to prison and he got through that. And I think he learned a lot about himself. And now I think he's either going to be this huge manipulator on his own and the staunch ally of Logan. And Logan's going to maybe like Tom more than his own daughter, and Tom's going to really be inner circle. And then if that happens, this could go one of two ways, which is either Shiv becomes a very...
Oh my God, if he becomes the successor.
Well, now it's going to be kind of weird because there's Lucas, right? So we'll get to that in a second, but it's either going to be Logan is going to turn to Tom and say, look, Tom, you're the guy I want to do this. You're always loyal, you're competent, blah, blah, blah. And Tom's going to be kind of the right-hand man of Logan, right? Forget Frank, forget Hugo, forget Carl and Jerry and all these other guys. Tom's going to be the guy, right? And either Shiv is going to be like, oh my God, Tom, now you're so powerful. I love you. I'm so attracted to you. And it's going to, turn her to love him more or love him for the first time. Or she is going to split with Tom and Tom's like, hey, I don't even need you. I've got my own in with the company. I don't need to marry into the company anymore. I've got it on my own merits, and those two are going to split apart. And it's going to be even more awkward. So I feel like it's going to go in one of those two different ways, but definitely Tom seems like he's going to be a power broker going forward, where he's always just kind of like...
Yeah, you can see the balance. The balance is definitely shifting. Yeah. And I think it's okay because, again, like Beth, I find Shiv to be insufferable.
Who do you dislike more? Beth from Yellowstone or Shiv from Succession?
Shiv from Succession. Beth is very transparent. I actually think Beth is super transparent. I am not a good person. I am a broken person, and I have a purpose in life, and this is what that purpose is. That purpose is to make Jamie feel pain and to do everything my father says because I want this family to survive. Shiv, on the other hand, oh my God.
Hold on. Let me just make one, then I'll let you get to Shiv on the other hand. Let me just make one response to that. I would completely support that, Beth, for all her flaws, except that she is almost intentionally nasty and rude to people who do not need it at all.
Or don't deserve it, yeah.
Example. Her assistant comes into her office, says, "I've brought you coffee." She will bark at that person using colorful metaphors. "Do I look like I need coffee? Oh, you dropped the coffee. You're an idiot. You're fired." This type of over masculinity, kind of like biting everyone's head off. You know, she walks into an office. "Hi, who are you here to see?" She bites her head off. "I'm the boss. You should know me. You're fired. You're this. You're..." So I feel like...
I'm not saying she's likable. I'm
not
just saying that if I have to... No, and here's the thing. The difference is that I think she doesn't hide that. I think she's very transparent about the fact that she's not likable. I can't stand either.
So let's go to
clear. But between the two of them, at least she's the most transparent about it. Beth is out there saying, "I don't like you, you don't like me, and that's fine. I'm here to do a job."
Okay.
And that's it.
Shiv,
on the other hand, my God, mean, she is neither here nor there.
So I feel like Shiv, I have a little bit of sympathy for Shiv. My sympathy is that I thought that Shiv is learning this bad behavior because of her father and the way that he treats her. And she seems to have learned from him. And he's an awful guy, but by the way, he's always right. But he's an awful guy, but I feel like she's been kicked and beat down so many times by his, false affections that she's kind of learned this bad behavior from him, which is, hey, maybe this is the way that I have to act to be successful in business. So then this is how I'll act. If my father treats me like this, I'm going to pass it down and I'm going to treat Tom like this. And she's just kind of like, we're getting into psychoanalysis. I love it. She's treating Tom the way that her father treats her. And I feel like I'm a little bit sympathetic to her. She's also not a good person, but I feel like she's exhibiting behavior because she's been kind of like beat down.
Maybe so, but the difference between her and Beth, she doesn't get anything done. Beth does.
Oh, that's true. Do you give her any credit for the negotiations she had with Sandy and Sandy, the Sandys? Remember, she gave away the board seat.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And the PJs, the private jets.
And some of it is definitely learned behavior, I'm sure. But then even in season 1, when she has the affair before she gets married to Tom, all these little things, when she's supposed to be the independent one, these were all behaviors, I think, that were written to make her inherently unlikable. She kicks people when they're down, something Beth might do, but then you also see her have... Beth is starting to go through a slight redemption arc with the kid that they've semi-adopted in the last season of Yellowstone. Shiv has yet to go through that redemption, and I think a part of that redemption is going to be, hey, guess what, Tom? Tom sees her for who she is. Tom kind of put his foot down with her at the end of season 2 when he was like, "I don't like the way you make me feel when I'm with you." And that made her, that was a shocking revelation to her, which I can't believe is a shock. But like that's when she first realized that, oh my God, maybe, Tom's actually stronger than he actually is. And now you're starting to see that. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it in the sense that I just don't... Her character is so inherently unlikable, and it's just... I can't stand her. Roman, also very unlikable character. Like the things that he's done, but in tune with his character, but unlike her, he gets stuff done in terms of the business.
Do you like Roman?
I can't stand him.
Really? I liked Roman when Roman was a screw-off. And I liked Roman less when he kind of became his father's lackey. And you know the line by Kendall, in season 2, which is, "Why are you doing this? I'm doing it because my dad told me to," kind of applies to Roman in season 3, which is Roman's never been serious about the business. He's always been this very social kind of party boy, doesn't have any emotions at all. And this season, we've seen him really kind of like do something that's so unlike him, which is suck up to his father. And it's, for me, it's a very strange scenario to see him so interested in being promoted, and he kind of like actively wants to be the new CEO, or he wants to be responsible for the business, where historically he's just been the party boy who know the best places in Prague or Manhattan or this underground club. And now we're seeing him like trying to be a little bit like a scheming. And I don't like that part of him. But just in terms of personality, I like his personality. I like his quips. He's
he's
one,
like
right?
the witty. He's like the comic relief-esque, or comic relief light. He had the dalliance with Jerry. He's got a few quirks and features about him that kind of like make him stand out a bit more in terms of personality. He has a better personality, or at least a more vocal personality than any of the other siblings.
But he's very cold. Of all the siblings, he seems to have the fewest emotion. Kendall is, I think, the most emotional. He is the softest.
I think he's the softest in the sense that, I think he's the one that would really get most hurt by the things that happened, right? Which is why he tried to kill himself.
He just had too many limoncellos and fall off his floaty.
One too many limoncellos.
But I agree. I mean, he's the one who, Kendall I like because, yes, he's always crying. He seems like the one who wants hugs. He seems to genuinely, love and feel pain and emotion. But Kendall bothers me because he doesn't have any substance. If you've looked at him in season 3, he's always got this army of people around them, and he just kind of like uses this like high level like chit chat banter, like even when he talks to his lawyers, and he's never really like sitting down and getting into substance. Even Roman is more substantive. Shiv is more substantive. Connor somehow seems to have a little bit of substance, but Kendall just is a bunch of polish with nothing behind him. And unfortunately, when we've seen all the interactions, whether it's, I can't remember this one guy, the guy who brought the Sandys, or this other guy who lives in the island that, him and Logan go visit, no one really, Stewie. Yeah, Stewie.
Oh, no. Oh,
no one really respects Kendall, because even though he's polished and likable, everyone kind of knows he's a little bit weak, and he's going to crumble, and Logan's always going to crush him in the end, right? It's just inevitable almost.
Yeah, I think, so look, in terms of presentation, if you could have the face of the company, I think Kendall would be the best. If you were looking at someone who's actually cutthroat enough and to actually do the hard work, I think Roman is the best.
I don't know. I think it's...
Where does that leave Shiv?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I think, this is what Logan has been pushing for 3 years, or 3 seasons, which is, first of all, it's his company. And I don't think he ever once wanted or expected to give it up. He's like, it's mine. You guys do whatever you want to do. He never stopped any of his kids from doing anything. And I think he kind of uses them as bait to get them, closer to him. And he doesn't have any intention of giving the company away. But I think it's also because they're all flawed in their own way. And maybe that's where Tom comes in, or maybe that's why he brings in Skarsgård. Because Skarsgård, he realizes, like, look, none of my kids can take this thing over. They've all got some good qualities, but individually, none of them can manage this, right? And I think that's a very a big change. And let's see if the 3 can kind of band together and overcome this. But let me ask you about two other characters and tell me your thoughts about them.
If one of them is Greg, I want to shoot him out of a cannon into the sun.
Greg is coming. tell me what you think about Greg prior to season 3 and now his evolution towards the end of season 3. Where do you fall on
I
Cousin
still
Greg?
don't. I can't stand him.
Really?
There's nothing about him that I like. He's this feckless guy who's like who stumbles into things, and he's just like, I don't know. I heard this, I heard that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't get him.
Yeah.
I just don't get him, and in such a high-paced, high energy, fast-paced, moving environment like Waystar Royco, like he would have been eaten alive 10 times over already.
Likely. And I agree. I mean, he's been a good comedic, I think, element to the show. And I feel happy that in season 3, they gave him, I mean, he still doesn't have any balls at all, right? I mean, he's still always agreeing with whatever anyone says to him. He either has a generic response or agrees with them or something, right? And that's his immature, like you said, feckless hallmark. And even his grandfather kind of calls him out on it, saying, look, I'm not giving you any money. You've got to start respecting yourself. But towards the end of season 3, he starts to develop his own like personality. He's got a girl that he wants to ask out, and then he's like, well, I'm not sure. I like this one better. This is better for me. He starts to grow a little bit. He knows that he's got a little bit of negotiating leverage. He's got something that he wants. Like he's still very young and silly and spineless, but he starts to get a little bit more serious. And I feel like there's also some parallels to him and Tom, which I can kind of imagine Tom as, we don't know his backstory, but he came from Minnesota. Maybe he was an intern similar to Greg. And Tom also has been spineless for years. And maybe he was just a guy who always agreed with everyone or never disagreed, and just kind of like, by being present and not really being controversial, kind of worked his way up. And now it seems like Tom is saying, I'm ready for bigger things. Greg, you're the new Tom, and Greg's going to get new Gregs. And, we've kind of seen him enter the next phase of his character arc as well, right?
What Tom had that Greg doesn't have is a relationship with Shiv. I also think that Tom got to where he is because of Shiv.
Then maybe Greg's going to get the Countess.
Yeah, maybe. Oh my God. I can't stand him. I really can't stand him.
Okay.
So he adds nothing except for that comedic element. And to be frank, I'm now so vested in the story that the comedy is irrelevant. That dark humor, unless it's coming from Roman, I'm not even that bothered about it anymore. And in fact, I actually think Roman was funnier in season 1 than he was in season 3.
Yeah, I agree. Because now Roman's too much into the business. Okay.
Now he's more business focused, exactly.
Yeah. So, what about Connor? Tell me what you feel about Connor. First of all, I have to tell you this trivia.
Go.
Give me Connor's famous movie role. You're going to go nuts when I tell you this. I know you know it.
Ferris Bueller?
Yes.
Is it?
Cameron in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Can you believe it? That's where I thought it was from. Can you believe it? I can't believe I remembered that.
He's the same character, right?
Yeah, basically.
Right?
He gets dragged along for the ride.
Yes.
Kicking
got
and
a rich
screaming the whole way.
father, afraid to do everything, never wants to do anything, always on the periphery, worried, hypochondriac. Yes.
Yeah,
that was Connor.
Connor is complicated. I liked when he was, and I don't want to make this is going to sound really mean, but I liked it when he was the sounding board to the siblings without really having a stake in anything.
Yeah.
When he didn't want to be president, before he wanted to be president, before he wanted to be anything, where he was just this like hippie ranch owner out in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico. And he was like the neutral family member who said that, look, I am not voting one way or another. I only vote with the family. So if you three are doing it, I will vote with you. If you three aren't doing it, I won't vote with you. Yeah. I follow everyone. Right?
Yeah.
I preferred that because what the show is missing now is a true neutral. Everyone has an ulterior motive one way or another, including Frank and Jerry and all these people who initially were neutral, but now they're like, even Jerry in that last line, she's like, look, I have to do what's best for the shareholders, right? As CEO, as acting CEO or CFO of the company,
Yeah.
it is my responsibility.
I don't have any problem with that. Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
No, neither do I. And that's fine. But my point is that there's no one who's the sounding board anymore. There's no one that you can throw balls off of to get an idea, or ideas off of to get an idea of what's actually happening or not happening. Because even Connor's like, okay, well, Dad, why don't you put me into an operational role somewhere, maybe in Hong Kong or whatever, so that when I run for president, people won't say that I have no substance. Because he has no substance.
Did you think that they would select Connor to run for president when they were sitting in the suite doing kind of the pony show that evening in this Federalist Society knockoff?
No, and this is this is another parallel to Yellowstone. There was no way. I didn't, because I didn't have faith that Logan thought that his son had it in him. Unlike what's his face unlike
Jamie.
Unlike Kevin Costner. Yeah. Kevin Costner knows his children are capable, whereas Logan knows that his children aren't.
Oh, such a good statement right there. But I was convinced that Logan, and it wouldn't have been so far-fetched either. I would consider one of the Koch brothers or someone else or someone from the Walton family, running for president. I was pretty convinced that Logan was going to choose Connor, at least to be kind of like a vice president. But I thought they'd put everything behind him, and I thought that would be Connor, who is the punchline in terms of running to president. And his dad would say, you know what, why? Why don't I do this? This makes so much sense. I'll put you as president. And they were just going to give him like $1 billion of funding and say, go run and win. And maybe he would have lost, but that would have been kind of the storyline, which is, Connor campaigning.
Yeah, it would have taken the publicity away from the family, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So I was surprised it didn't go that way. I was pretty convinced that, once Logan was asking people like, hey, what do you think? What do you think? But could he win? Like, that everyone was going to say no, 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 which was obvious, not surprising. And then, Logan was going to, as always, disregard what everyone else's opinion is and do what he wanted anyway.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been a very contrarian decision and consistent with how the show really usually goes.
Yeah. I think it fundamentally goes down to the fact that the father just doesn't have faith in his children for whatever reason.
Sure.
Yeah? And each of them has done the right thing.
Well, the reason is that they're all idiots. I mean, it's not for whatever reason. The reason is because they're not terrible.
They're not him. They're either too cutthroat or not cutthroat enough, or not focused enough, or too focused. So no one's got the right balance as far as he's concerned. Right? And I do agree with you. I think it would have been an interesting storyline to have him run politics. Certainly would have added another element or another dimension, or maybe. But the difference is, I think it becomes too much of a political dimension to the game, to the story. Yeah. Whereas I think these guys are maybe more focused purely on what the boardroom of it all.
Yeah, but I have to say, like, if you're looking at, again, like the longevity of a show is based on the creating new plot lines, right? That would have been a good plot line. And without that plot line, is Connor even a viable character anymore? Or is he going to go back and retreat to his New Mexico, whatever, ranch and never be heard from again? Because unless this, I don't see Connor as entering the mix now, of course, after the company's been sold and being the head of Europe. The Roy family doesn't even control the business anymore. He's never going to get that job. And if he's not going to have a political element, for me, Connor's just been effectively written out of the show.
I don't know, but I think that the last season especially has been so much about the three children and Logan that everyone else kind of fell by the wayside. Even Tom, even Greg, even anyone who had any sort of arc. So it just, it was almost irrelevant to me.
Marsha.
Anyway. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, Me
Yeah.
personally, what got me hooked was the finance world is like that's my wheelhouse, right? That's our wheelhouse. That's what we know. We know business. We understand it. So that all became it became very interesting to me to see the it's like a courtroom battle but in the boardroom, right? So everyone's playing a game of chess.
Yeah, border
Yeah,
battle.
fair enough. Everyone's playing a game of chess, but really Logan's the only
Thrones.
one who knows where all the pieces are going to be at the end of the day.
So let's make our predictions. Now we're at an interesting place, right? We're at the end of season 3. We've done this for other shows. We're the writers. We've got, complete, control over the creative control. Where do we put this show now to make season 4 even more compelling than season 3? What's our enduring storyline, plot, twists, characters that are going to be prominently featured? Where should you and I go with this?
I think Tom plays an integral role. I think you're right. I think Tom transitions into Logan's right-hand man, replaces the 3 children. So, as surrogates anyway for the business. And I see Logan relying on Tom to represent the Roy interest in Waystar Royco. It's not to say that they're going to fire the kids, but I think they're effectively, because the way the season ended, they've effectively been fired or demoted at best, right?
Sidelined. Yeah. So let me ask you, let's go through a few scenarios. You tell me what you think is going to happen. Do you think that the transaction is going to be finalized, right? So it appears that the ex-wife has changed some details of the trust. So Logan now has all the votes that he needs to allow the company to be acquired by Gojo. Do you think this transaction is going to be executed and that Gojo will now be the controlling shareholder of Waystar?
I think yes. And I think what makes next season compelling is to watch the 3 kids work their way to undermine it so that they regain controlling whatever it is.
Do you think Logan is going to be happy with the acquisition? Is he going to be like, hey, this is great. I'm chairman emeritus. I've got this, high profile role. It's exactly what I wanted. Do you think he's going to be happy, or do you think he's going to want to unwind this transaction?
Yeah, history would tell us that he can't not be in control, right? But at the same time, you see him get really, like, at that last meeting with Skarsgård, with Lucas,
I feel
you can
like he
see
cannot,
that twinkle in his eyes where he was just
accept,
like, I'm tired
he,
of this.
He can't build things without destroying it, right?
Does he live up to
Yes.
that? I don't know.
Yes.
Is that a part of his personality? I see him dying on his desk. I don't see him dying on some yacht in the Mediterranean.
So I agree. I think I'm kind of setting this up for, let's say, like, there's going to be 2 different storylines in season 4, and they're going to kind of converge. So I think the first one is going to be, let's say we fast forward season 4, we see Waystar functioning now under Gojo. Lucas and his team are in charge. Logan is, just this old legend, somehow sidelined into this, basement, dark corner office. Tom is, working his way through Logan, trying to get in, maybe with Lucas. Maybe that's a plot twist, is that Tom kind of leapfrogs Logan, and now he's in with Lucas. Greg's got his own divisions and is running all sorts of, like, nonsense in the Buffalo branch. But I think Logan has to try to destroy this. Somehow Logan's going to try to either demerge, undermine Logan, or undermine Lucas. Somehow Logan is going to have to try to take control back of this entity. And then I think the second line of this is that I think the kids, I assume that they take their money, but they're out of the organization. I feel like they're going to build a competitor. It's going to be those 3 building a competitor, and then they're going to want to somehow have that competitor take control of Gojo, which is being undermined by their father somehow. So maybe the share price is low, and their new competing entity wants to acquire it so that they can effectively own Logan. What do you think of the storyline for season 4. Are we hired?
I like it. We're always hired, first of all. I will never back down from that challenge. And nor will I ever publicly go against my partner here. But
yeah,
I'm intrigued to see that.
This is my prognosis.
The question is, can they work together? And I think that's what we're going to start to see in the next series. Whatever they do, they're going to have to do it together.
Yeah. Because as we've seen, I mean, there is a formula for the series, right? And the formula is generally enemies become friends, the friends become enemies, right? And there's always like a shifting of the alliances, and the people that you thought hated each other now become best friends and are working, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, or whatever this is, right? So I mean, I feel like this is somehow how it's going to be. And this also pits basically, there's also some marital drama, right? Which is Shiv and her 2 brothers, creating an entity that's trying to compete with, her husband, who's navigated his way to the top of something as well, right? So I feel like there needs to be some momentary decoupling where we follow these 2 different kind of like corporate paths. But at the same time, we kind of know where this is leading, which is, the siblings are going to, to come out on top. So I
think it'll be a nice break. It'll be a nice change of pace to see what you've suggested. Right? I think the last 3 seasons have been too much of us seeing them at loggerheads all the time. All the time.
I agree.
So I think it'll be interesting to see. Okay, look, we're going to run 2 respective races simultaneously.
Yep.
We're not going to intersect until the very end. Maybe the last 2 or 3 episodes we interact, and that's it.
I agree.
Which will be.
I agree.
I think it'll be refreshing for the show. Probably not very realistic, but very refreshing.
Give me some crazy predictions. Not even that you believe are true. Just give me some crazy plot twist. Something that not even a plot twist. Like, let me throw one out and you'll see where I'm going with this. Season 4, Roman starts to openly date Jerry. Give me something like this. Let's just make some crazy predictions that we think is going to take place, right?
Season 4, Tom and Greg bring down Waystar Gojo, or Gojo Waystar Royko, with some secret documents that Greg has squirreled away, like he's prone to do, and that the federal investigation that was on the Roys gets shifted onto Lucas, and that is used as the excuse to either demerge or to cancel.
I feel like Connor is going to no longer be with his girlfriend, and his fiance now, and is somehow going to have something much more scandalous or high profile that's going to somehow bring him back into this.
Oh yeah, I don't see that lasting at all. Or his fiance now, right?
There has to be some type of story arc for Connor, because he can't have unless he's going to somehow get an executive position. Somehow Connor needs to be brought back in. So I'm going to say he leaves this fiance, or this fiance leaves him. He finds someone else who's equally high profile and totally crazy, and they become like this. Maybe he starts dating a senator, for example, and the father and the kids start to use Connor to get like political favors or something. There has to be some way where he becomes like surprisingly, in a twist, an important element that now they need him, whereas previously they just thought he was this kind of bumbling, fool.
Oh, and another twist to that, he's actually being used as an inside mall.
Yes.
Maybe he's been planted as a mole through an investigation.
Okay. What about Logan's wife, Marcia? There's some weird stuff here, right? Is he dating his assistant or not dating his assistant?
I imagine that they're definitely sleeping together, and I don't know what's going on with Marcia. I liked Marcia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that she stood up to the kids, man. I thought that was really good.
That's true. So is Marcia going to have...
She wasn't a dick.
Yeah.
She wasn't a jerk.
Yeah.
She was very straight-laced, and she stood up to the kids.
Yeah.
Like, the biological mother,
Yeah.
she's terrible. Like, as a mom,
Yeah.
she's
I agree.
terrible.
I agree.
I would never, like, can you imagine doing what she did to your own children? Oh my God, I couldn't. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want to be a part of that fight. But if I were forced into that, like Logan would have forced her into it, I would have sided with my kids first, not with my ex-husband who I hate.
So that's interesting. What if we see something where it's Marcia, right, who seems to be kind of negotiating something, somehow takes control, and it's the kids versus Marcia, or the kids and Logan versus Marcia, right? Or Marcia and the kids versus Logan. Is she even going to be a part of this? I don't think Marcia's going to be a part of this at all anymore. I mean, maybe not. But we're the writers. We can do whatever we want.
The whole point of that meeting in Sarajevo... Yeah, but the whole point of that meeting in Sarajevo was that she was going to get bought out of her prenup, right?
Yeah, maybe.
So I just don't see Marcia coming into this. I see the mother having more to do with this than Marcia. I think if the kid's mom gets involved, that's when you start to see some traction.
Do you think there's any way they could kill off Logan? I feel like the show really struggles without Logan, right?
No, the show doesn't exist without him. Otherwise, it's three petulant kids fighting amongst themselves.
Do you think Yellowstone could survive without Kevin Costner?
Also, no. I think the thing is that even if the story isn't directly about him, he's the guy that kicks off the first domino in every element.
Yeah. I feel like if Kevin Costner said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, the writers could probably say, look, we just need you once for a scene every other episode, and Yellowstone could still kind of go on, right?
Oh, yeah, but that's right, because like his screen time is like relative to the kids, it's like a ratio of maybe 3-1, for example, right?
I think that's also his word to scene ratio is also 3 as well.
So I think
that's how things used to be. Well, they don't get done like that anymore. He's just got like these fortune cookie, basic lines. Like it's almost like they've got like a pinwheel, and he's got like the Wheel of Fortune, right? They've got like a random line, and they just kind of spin the wheel, and they say, "What's Kevin going to say?" Well, you come back to me when you're a man. Well, I ain't got no time for that anymore. It's just random stuff. Whereas I think Logan, you could not go more than an episode without featuring him somehow. I agree that the show really loses its center of gravity without him.
Yeah. Which again, I think is the whole point, right? The whole point is that he is this larger than life person who's everyone is trying to get a hold of for their 15 minutes of fame, and he can make that happen for everyone, right? Like literally, that was one of my favorite scenes. There, 2 favorite scenes stood out to me. Was that one scene with Tom leaving the diner with Kendall, right? And Kendall taking the picture, and he says, "You know what they're doing back in the hotel? They're choosing the next president of the United States, right? Just as a testament to how powerful they are." And then the other scene that I thought was really nice was actually when the 3 kids in the last episode are going to confront their father, and they're like, "Look, right now, let's just stop him from taking control. Let's take over control. And then the 3 of us can continue fighting. That's more fun anyway." And all 3 of them said, "You know what? That is more fun." Yeah. And that was like, okay, that's the first time where I saw them all as siblings. You know what I mean? Versus in not just words, but in emotions.
But there's something I have to say. There's one distinction between the siblings in Yellowstone versus Succession. In Succession, I have to say that it seems like in business, the siblings really do like each other. But in life, they're actually okay. They actually care about Kendall when he, potentially commits suicide.
That opening dinner table scene.
They actually don't dislike each other as people. They kind of like each other as people. But when it comes to business, they say, look, this person's not my brother. They're my enemy. Whereas Yellowstone doesn't really have those boundaries. It's you've screwed me in business, therefore I hate you as a person. And that's primarily between Beth and Jamie. Casey's not so
Yeah, but
involved.
again, that's you'll get when you see the scene and you understand what he did to her. You kind of understand where that comes.
Do you think it's better that should have been left unsaid? Isn't it nice to have like the right?
Probably, or at least unshown.
Like I think there's something about these. I mean, everyone wants to know like why. What's the reason? What's the history? What's the backstory? Sometimes it's nice when there's a little bit of intrigue, right? In terms
mystery.
Of like what happened to those guys that.
Yeah, I think it's because she's so negative they had to. She's such a nasty person.
Yeah.
I don't think they had a choice, right? She baits him into throwing a punch at her face. She baits him into a bunch of different things. She treats him like crap even when he's at his lowest. And you don't know why at this point, you know? And at that point, you're all like, well, I don't like Jamie, but I definitely don't like Beth. This gives you a better understanding as to why you don't like either of them.
Do you think there's no smoke detectors in any office? She's always smoking in the office, and people are always telling her not to smoke in offices.
It's Montana. You do whatever you want.
Montana.
That's how the Cowboys did it.
That's our state. That's the state motto. It's like, welcome to Montana. You do whatever you want. Yeah. Welcome to Vermont.
And believe me, they've done it. Again, if I were ever to go to Montana, I'd be very weary because, my God. Like,
maybe it'd be very dangerous.
These are the things you...
Maybe it'd be very dangerous. Huh? Maybe it'd be very dangerous.
Yeah. Right? But just these are things that you kind of expect in, like, Jersey and Atlantic City, like the mob and gang killings and explosions. You know, this is like Detroit or Chicago in Prohibition era style violence.
Well, see, this is why, because there's no CCTV. You can't have these episodes now in modern day East Coast or like any big city, because it's like, well, come on, guys.
Too much surveillance.
This is the 20s. There's like surveillance. There's cops. There's no chase scenes, right? Like, come on, guys. Like, there's gridlock everywhere. Like, what's a chase scene in New Jersey, right? So I think in Montana, the implication is, hey, there's only like all these cities are like 3 hours away from each other. You know, you can kind of get away with whatever you want. No one's going to stop you. Your state motto. Is this good or bad for Montana? As a
oh man, it's got to be a mixed bag because the show does make Montana look beautiful.
Yeah, like it's very, right? It's
and
very,
like,
and I have to say this about Montana. Unlike a lot of other places, there doesn't seem to be any humidity. There doesn't seem to be a lot of insects. There's no snakes, scorpions. You know, like they mentioned Texas, like everything's trying to like bite you, eat you, something. Okay, there's bears and coyotes, but like overall, it seems relatively safe if you don't like insects and reptiles, right?
Unless they're throwing your face from a
someone
cooler.
Throws a rattlesnake or some type of poisonous snake in your face. I'm really sad that they got rid of Sawyer. I thought he was very funny.
No, he had it coming.
And he's struggled to find a long-term job after his success on Lost, right? It was such an iconic character. Everyone else from Lost has found something else, right? Evangelina Lilly was on that robot boxing movie, and now she's on Ant-Man.
The Wasp.
She's a Wasp,
yeah.
Right? She's found something.
Right.
What's the dude? He was on Party of Five, then he was on Lost, and what else has he been in? Something else. Right?
No idea. There are very few of them, I think, have made it out into bigger things, right?
Penny, of course, made it onto For All Mankind.
For All Mankind.
Yeah. But the Korean dude made it onto Hawaii Five-0.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Although he left Hawaii Five-0.
And he left Hawaii Five-0. And now it's poor Sawyer, who is struggling because he's so universally known as Sawyer.
The handsome dude.
He was in Mission Impossible for the opening scene, right? Until he.
That's right. In the third one,
he got shot by the agent, and now he's just.
Or the fourth one, yeah. But that's Succession. Oh my God, I think that's
how many Mission Impossibles are there?
5, 6.
Yeah, that's Succession.
They're making 6 and 7. I can't know.
Let's put it on the list. We have to do a breakdown of Mission Impossible, the new one coming out, right?
That's right, but that's who knows when that's coming out.
So can we just talk about this for a moment, though? There is a Mission Impossible coming out. There is a Top Gun 2 coming out. If these aren't coming out in Christmas, New Year's of 2021, are they coming out in summer
Which they aren't.
2022?
So Mission Impossible, I don't know what the expected timeline is, but it's not your typical summer blockbuster anyway. It is a blockbuster movie, don't get me wrong, but it's not like a movie you'd necessarily associate with like a summer action movie blockbuster. Whereas Top Gun is like pure July 4th weekend, you need to see it on the big screen.
Can I tell you? I just searched it. Mission Impossible 7 is coming out September 30th, 2022.
There you go. And Top Gun probably this summer.
May 27, 2022.
There you go, just in time for the summer rush.
But help me understand this. When was Mission Impossible made? It was supposed to be released in 2020, right?
No, so Mission Impossible, Chris McQuarrie, they did 7 and 8 back to back.
Oh, really?
So it's been like one long shoot. And I remember they shot most of it, they've shot some of it in London. And they were still shooting as of last year. Of course, pandemic had lots of problems with that. So I don't know where they are in terms of filming. But I assume all filming is now done, at least for 7. And if I remember correctly, they said they were going to film the next 2 back to back, which means that they must have also filmed 8, or they're on the verge of filming.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited about it. I have to say, both of these movies, Top Gun 2 and Mission Impossible 7, I'm really looking forward to both of these, actually. And I'm not sure what's going... We've got Matrix, we've got Spider-Man, which is our next breakdown, No Way Home. And then we've got Matrix.
So I am looking forward to it, but I don't know anything about...
You told me, and...
So I saw Spider-Man, by the way, and I can't wait for you to watch it so that we can discuss it.
Can we just say briefly, no spoilers for me or for our listeners, but help put me in the mindset of how I should be watching this movie. As we've joked before, do we have to have seen Spider-Man 1, 2, 3... 1 and 2 to see this Spider-Man?
So as with any Marvel movie, my recommendation always is try to watch the immediate prequels to any series. And that's not a Spider-Man specific piece of advice. Any Marvel movie that's a
that's
sequel.
Life advice. That's life advice.
Yeah, just do yourself a favor and watch the movie that preceded it, or the 2 movies that preceded it.
Okay.
Because inevitably.
So watch Tom Holland. Watch Tom Holland 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then you'll be in a prime position for this one.
No spoilers. You can see this from the trailers.
And Strange.
You can see this from the trailers. 3 takes place right after 2. So it's like an immediate sequel.
Immediately? Oh. A true sequel. Is there a word for this?
How
about
no idea.
Natural sequel. A natural
sequel. So
sequel.
it takes. So that's my recommendation. Is that in general? Let me be even more clear. With Marvel movies, it's always a good idea to watch any of the shows or movies that are in the same phase prior to it. So in this case,
what shows would I watch?
So in this case, I would have watched WandaVision, Hawkeye.
Oh, really? Hawkeye? Should we talk about Hawkeye?
We should. We have one more episode of Hawkeye, and then we can do the deep dive on the series. Hawkeye, I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I think so. Let me ask you for Hawkeye, do you think that there's enough content to talk about it episode by episode, or does it really need to be seen in its seasonal totality before you can kind of get into it?
So I think what Marvel's done with Hawkeye, and to a lesser extent with Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Captain Falcon, now it's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is that they tell story that could have potentially been a movie over the course of 8 episodes or whatever. I'm not saying Hawkeye is a movie, but what I am saying is that the story is one story that when you break it down has the legs to be in episodes, but I think it's, maybe not deep enough for a full movie, but could be a movie. Which is why I prefer to talk about it as a season overall. So, but that's because that's a Marvel thing. It's not like
Yeah.
Succession. It's not like Yellowstone or any of these other shows we've watched, or like even For All Mankind, where you can watch episode by episode, discuss nuances episode by episode. That's not to say there aren't nuances in each episode of Hawkeye, but what I'm saying is you see the bigger picture of the nuance overall as it relates not just to Hawkeye, but also to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
So when this season of Hawkeye is finished, is that it for Hawkeye? Then there's no more season 2 Hawkeye. It's just a one-off season?
I don't know, but I imagine what they are going to do is, and again, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailers. So, you see Haley Stanford, whatever her name is. She comes in as the spiritual successor to Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. So I imagine they're either going to do a movie with her or she can continue on with the team.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to kind of, transition some of the historical Avenger folks out, right? And we're slowly seeing that. And I think it's continuing on, but I'm really excited about Spider-Man. We will do the deep dive Spider-Man No Way Home next week.
Sure.
Do we agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait.
Okay. And we will also do then Hawkeye season recap next episode.
Perfect.
And now we have Matrix.
So Matrix comes out as of the time of this recording next week.
Okay.
And so I still have no idea what this movie is going to be about. Matrix 4. So I thought it would be helpful for our listeners if we go through a quick recap. Just a quick recap. So
I agree.
Matrix.
I need a recap as well. It's not just listeners. I'm counting myself as a listener as well because the three original. What years were these three made?
Sorry.
What years were Matrix?
99, 02, and 03,
oh, really?
Or 02 and 04.
Wow, they're like 18 years, 20 years old.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oof.
Absolutely.
Do you think Keanu is better known for John Wick or for Matrix? What would be on his gravestone or his Hollywood star?
I think that depends on how old you are.
But what's on his Hollywood star?
If you're our age, I think it'll be. If you're our age, it's Matrix.
Yeah.
If you're 10 years younger, it's John Wick.
All right.
It comes down to that. I think he's of the two more iconic roles, and that's I take that 100% back because he's still. I still remember him from Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
So that for me is his first most iconic.
Yeah, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yeah.
Right. So so that's in terms of his action man renaissance. Even before that, it was Speed. That was, I think, his breakout role into that genre.
Yeah. I would say his Hollywood star would mention The Matrix. I think that was.
I would agree.
And I say it because I think that that's a more enduring series. John Wick is an action series, but I think the world without Matrix would be missing something from cinematic history. Whereas, I mean, that was pretty groundbreaking. Even if you look at like a lot of special effects and a lot of like pop culture references, they're all related to Matrix, right? Whereas I think John Wick is, of course, a very well-known character. He plays that character incredibly well. There's so much good action. The choreography and the fight scenes are, superb. But if you took those movies out of cinematic history, to be honest, we wouldn't really be worse off. There wouldn't be like this gap that, needed to be somehow filled. So I think his Hollywood star should reference The Matrix. Speed had its day, but again, I think the world without Speed, someone else could have filled that role for him. It didn't necessarily need to be him. But it's interesting to see that Speed, both him and who was the bus
Sandra
driver?
Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, had equally, A-list careers, right? Coming from that.
Indeed.
And that's not an easy thing to say when there's male-female co-stars. Usually someone eclipses the other person coming in or exiting, right?
I would say in terms of drama, she probably has eclipsed him, but he's made a resurgence over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. But clearly any A-list, that includes, not gender specific, but, just any A-list would include both of them, right? I think so. Yeah. Okay. All right. So help me understand the Matrix. Remind me of what happened with Matrix Reloaded. What was the third one?
Matrix
Revolutions?
No. Yeah, Resurrections is the new one.
Oh.
So in the original Matrix, you find out that Neo, or Keanu Reeves' character, is living in a simulation. He's got this feeling that something's not quite right with the world, but he's not sure what it is. And he realizes with the help of Morpheus and Trinity that humans have been enslaved by robots. And robots are keeping humans around for their electric potential in their bioelectric, right? So some science, sustainable energy source, exactly. And so they're plugged into the simulation to prevent people from revolt, right? It's just to keep people in a passive state. So he breaks, at the end of that first movie, they break out of the Matrix, or by the end of that first movie, they break out of the Matrix and they confront the robots who are controlling them, or not the robots, but the programs that are controlling them, and say that, hey, we know about this now and we're going to bring freedom to the masses, right? And that's how the first one ends. And for me, really, it was a good movie. It was a great movie. At that point, I didn't think a sequel needed to be made. But of course...
Because it ended in a very clean and neat way, right? No one left that movie. The special effects are interesting. Like, everything about that movie was, like, super cool.
There was good closure. It left it open-ended so that you could imagine what the future would be like. That's fine.
Yes.
And then... So they made the sequel.
But then... Yeah, Reloaded.
So then they made Reloaded. So Reloaded and Revolutions were filmed back to back. And the idea is that they're one movie split over two. And the concept of that is Neo has been fighting the machines in the simulated world. They've been battling here and there. But now the machines are trying to destroy the human population that's not connected to the Matrix. And they all live in a place called Zion.
Right. So the machines, like, literally, maybe not literally, they are actually trying to break into this Zion physical world and actually kill the remaining human beings who are not somehow into the Matrix, correct?
That's right. So they want to kill these interlopers who have the potential for causing chaos, right? Yes. So that's the idea. And so at the second movie, you see them continue their fight, and the bad guy from the first movie, Agent Smith, played by Hugo Weaving.
Yes.
He was destroyed by Neo, but the way Neo destroys him, I don't know how he rewrites his code or whatever he does, and that makes Agent Smith a virus within the Matrix. Right? So Agent Smith is now fighting against Neo, but he's also fighting against the Matrix because the Matrix doesn't want a virus in there as well. He is becoming more and more powerful because he gets to replicate his virus everywhere else. And so, as a virus will do.
As a virus does.
So the point is that at the end of the second movie, you find out that Neo has the capability somehow, and it's not clear exactly how, to control the machines even in the physical.
Yes.
Because he's somehow connected to the Matrix even when he's not plugged in. Because he is the quote-unquote the one.
Yes. So I think this is one of these points that is a great trick in filmmaking that you and I always have to be careful that we just accept, which is it's not clear how, why. There's actually no legitimate reason, but we just have to accept, like a Christopher Nolan film, that Neo can actually control physical machines.
That's right. That's right. Or
right?
he doesn't know exactly how, but
You
it's
just have to
happened,
accept it.
right? So that's the mystery that's left in the
Yes.
second movie. Simultaneously, you also find out that Agent Smith is
Mhm.
able to take over the mind of a human and enter the physical world. So even though he exists as a virus in the Matrix, he's now taken over the body of a real human who was plugged into the Matrix and is controlling him in the real world. Also, not fully explained why or how. Fine, no problem, because again, you suspend a little bit of that questioning disbelief because, you're getting through the movie
Pete,
and it's an interesting concept.
yeah, Pete, it's like we always say, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And at this point, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, right?
Exactly.
Agent Smith can do it, and we just have to cross that bridge when we get to it.
And so, Matrix 3 a direct sequel, as in it continues where 2 left off with Revolutions.
Revolutions. Let me ask you one question, though, to clarify. Trinity did not die at the end of 2. There was a scene where she was dying, but then Neo saved her at the end of 2, right?
Right. And this is the part where things gets a little convoluted because he saves her in the Matrix by putting his hand through her body and pulling the bullets out. But he also manages to do that somehow in the real world or something. Things got a little dicey. The movie's 20 years old, but fine. He saved her. She's saved. So, which is in parallel to what she did for him, was she saved him at the end of the first movie. He's done the same for her in the second movie. And then the third movie, which again is really the second movie, just the second part of the second movie, is the continuation of the fight against the robots and man. But, you see a lot more action sequences in Zion where you have these squid-like tentacled robot monsters flying into the home base. And just as they're about to take over and destroy all of the base, everyone stops, and it's because Neo has gone to what's called the so-called source, where the Matrix was first started, and he's negotiated a ceasefire with the robots because they can't kill Smith either. So he makes a deal with them. He says that I'll take care of Smith as long as you give us peace.
Yeah.
He goes back into the Matrix. They have a big CGI crap fest of a fight. He destroys Smith by letting Smith destroy him. And by destroying him, he does to Smith what Smith did to him, which is he rewrites the code. And rather, Neo, by getting taken over by Smith, is able to rewrite the code and destroy Agent Smith. And then the Matrix is brought back to peace or stability.
Look, Pete, I think you deserve a lot of credit for this because these Matrix movies are visually stunning. The idea and the inspiration behind them is full of creativity. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of, let's not call them plot gaps. There's places where you just have to accept something as a fact. And that fact leads to understanding why or how something has happened, right? So, I mean, again, the one of the problems when you watch these movies too closely, I mean, apart from the fact that there's a lot of theoretical analogies you can make, in terms of what type of messaging is coming out, there's a lot of action sequences where you're like, well, wait a second, how did that happen? And you can't ask yourself that. You just have to accept that, oh, well, Keanu is fighting a virus and the virus could replicate and therefore this and therefore that. And that's how you have to get over these kind of like mental hurdles, I think.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird allegories in there. I'm not even talking about the Merovingian. There's a lot of there's like a reference to Neo being like a Christ-like figure. There's a lot of secondary, or not secondary, but there's a lot of like thinly veiled allusions to our real world. That the choice is an illusion by the system. That's the whole thing with the architect. And that everything was preordained to continue in the cycle the way it is.
Yeah.
So
there's,
and from what I understand, a lot of these have got to do with the Wachowski siblings, they had their issues, in their own lives, and that the Matrix was a great way for
Yeah.
them to tell their own story
Yeah.
or how they were feeling at the time, which is, wonderful. And I'm very happy for them that they were able to do that. But for me, one was already a complete story as it was. The trilogy as a whole certainly felt complete, even if 2 and 3 weren't such good movies, in my opinion, or at least were maybe too bogged down by allegory. So that's why I'm intrigued by 4. A, because I like Keanu, I'm happy to see him in anything. But B, where do they go from here? What is the purpose of the story? What more is there to tell that the first 3 haven't already told?
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions that I have is, it seemed a little bit inevitable that Matrix would come back just because it's so iconic, and because there'd always be a huge audience for it, right? Because it's so different from anything else, it would absolutely, be popular as long as you can bring back, kind of the original cast, because it doesn't work without Keanu, it doesn't work without, Carrie-Anne Moss. But I feel like this movie ended twice already, so I'm not really sure. At the end of 1, it ended, and I get it. It made so much money
Exactly
that you had to find a way to do it again. Okay, then they did 2 and 3, and again, it came to like a very long, drawn out, but clear conclusion. So help me understand, as someone who should be preparing to see the new Matrix, where I'm starting from. Is this a prequel? Is it now what's the opposite of a trilogy? Quadrilogy? Quintilogy?
So my understanding is that this isn't a prequel, it's a continuation of that story. So how that's a continuation of that story, I don't know, because Neo dies at the end of the 3rd movie. So everyone dies
Trinity
except
dies.
for Morpheus and whoever was in Zion. So I don't know how this is going to
Yeah.
Credit where credit is due. This is why I like the trailer. Even though the trailer hasn't been particularly fantastic, conceptually why I like the Matrix trailer, it tells you nothing about the story. So it doesn't spoil anything for you. Unlike most trailers these days where they show you like 30 to 50% of what's going to happen in the movie in the trailer. Here, they've not been clear, maybe on purpose, maybe by design, whatever it is. I like that I have no expectations of what to expect, of what's going to be in this movie, because the trailer hasn't given me any expectations. So in that regard, I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it as well. I mean, Matrix, again, it's just so iconic, and in a cinematic universe where there's a lot of copy and paste, or there's a lot of very formulaic films.
Yeah.
I mean, Matrix was something that really broke the mold, and was one of the few things you could point to that was dramatically different and took a lot of risks. And there's so many iconic scenes. I mean, the scenes that I remember were when they were in kind of this lobby, and they went through the metal detector, and the guns were discovered, and it had this huge shootout.
Yeah.
And just the graphics of the bullets and the flying pieces of cement or gypsum or whatever it was. Very iconic scene. The second scene, of course, was when Neo is dodging the bullets, right? And of course, he bends over like basically backwards, and you see kind of the bullets whistling by him. The third, Carrie-Anne Moss, kind of jumps in the air, and the camera, does a 180 around her, and she does
360
kind of
around
the
her, yeah.
karate stork kick on the guy. And of course, the one that I remember the best was when they tried to rescue Morpheus when he was kidnapped, and they somehow bring this helicopter to crash into the building, and the side of the building kind of ripples. I mean, this is in addition to all the fight scenes, right? I mean, there's a scene where Neo and Agent Smith kind of like take off at each other, kind of Superman style.
Off in the subway.
Yeah, the subway fight scene. I mean, there's just so many iconic action sequences in the movie that for me, it papers over a plot that doesn't always add up, but you just kind of go with the flow and say, look, this is an amazing movie. Okay, we understand you can do this. There's kind of fuzziness between the human world, which is Zion, and the machine world and the Matrix and so on and so forth. But I agree with you. I'm not really clear where this new one fits. And I imagine it's probably going to be a little bit abrupt in terms of where it kind of enters into the timeline, or if it rewrites the timeline, or if it's a spin-off of the timeline. And I think we're just going to have to go with it. But I'm hoping that the movie itself is super good and isn't just kind of recycling some of the old tricks.
Likewise, I fully agree with every sentiment you just raised there. Let's,
Thank you.
Fingers are crossed there. I'm looking forward to it, not just for the fight sequences, because, nowadays, to be very frank, there have been lots of good movies that do excellent fight sequences.
Yeah.
So it's no longer going to be about the karate or the kung fu or the judo. It's going to be more about the concept, for me at least. And so I'm very interested to see where this goes now.
Do you think it's fair to say that this is not the last that we've seen of The Matrix?
I have no idea.
I mean, I assume this movie is not going to. I don't know how much the budget for this movie is. I'm sure you know off the top of your head. But regardless of the budget, I assume this movie is going to make a lot of money just because people are going to go out of curiosity. There's not a whole lot of, like competing entertainment at the time. Let's say it makes a good amount of money. I think anything where it's popular probably justifies a second, right?
Probably a second. Look, I think, and maybe this is me being cynical, I think Hollywood has this thing right now where it's a franchise. Every movie has to be a franchise, and a franchise has to have at least 3 movies in it, which is not great. But, let's see what happens. Movies like The Matrix, theoretically, especially because the first was already a trilogy, have the potential to become a franchise. But I don't want it to be a franchise for the sake of being a franchise.
I think first of all, we need an episode on franchises that should not have been and franchises that should be. We also need an episode on what movies are not made anymore, rom-coms, because they just don't justify a franchise, comedies. But I think also that we when you're looking at a franchise, I would say like Marvel is beyond a franchise. Maybe it's a meta franchise, whatever the terminology is, because it's not really based on 3 characters that you just continue to recycle, right? It would be Iron Man would be a franchise, for example. But with Matrix, there's 3-4 main characters, right? There's Neo, there's Trinity, there's Morpheus, Agent Smith, or another agent who takes his place. We don't have really the Oracle anymore. She's changed.
Yeah.
You could maybe add Jada Pinkett Smith, whatever her ship captain role was, right? And that's about it. So those folks are getting, more mature. I mean, how long are we going to have, Keanu acting as Neo? He's kind of reached the apex, I would think. If you're going to have him do 2 more after this, right? Carrie-Anne Moss doing 2 more after this. I mean, we're just kind of getting to the point where, there needs to also be like an evolution of characters as well, I think, to keep it a little bit fresh,
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to reserve judgment on Matrix only because, again, it's one of the few movies that I don't know anything about at the moment. Even having seen the trailer. Mm-hmm. So, again, testament to the trailer. I don't like knowing what the movie's all about before going to see it. So,
Agreed.
I think this will probably be an in-depth discussion on The Matrix when we see it.
Next episode, when we discuss Spider-Man, can we also add a side, which is I'd like to talk a little bit about Venom and Carnage.
We'll have to. It's a part of it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Got it.
Perfect.
Okay, my friend Pete. Thank you
that's a good resting point for this week.
Indeed it is. We'll see you next time, listeners. Or hear you next time, listeners.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.